Hello everyone, and I'm back. I know I should have released this video yesterday, but I didn't because I had a few issues with my new computer. I did a few mistakes with it. Basically what happened was the monitor wasn't working. Turns out I was plugging it in the wrong place, and the graphics card for some reason doesn't have a VGA port, so I got a new adapter and now it's all working fine. Installed everything, then I realised I didn't exactly bring everything over from my old computer, so I'm going to have to do that. So until then the video was delayed. I still think it's relevant, I still think I can still make this video because, well, this person, this guy, he's just, you know, never going to be old news until the day he either dies or he somehow has a change of heart. And I'm talking about Steve Shives, yes, Steve Shives, our favourite feminist, our favourite male feminist, the only one so far that hasn't gone crazily violent. So why am I making the video on him? Well, you see, he was busy being an absolute crazy nutcase when Lacey Green dropped the video that she did. I was also going to make a video on that after this. That was my plan, but I pretty much think that ship has now sailed. So I think I'll just put it here and say I don't trust her. You probably know from the video beforehand, but I'm willing, as some people seem to not realise, to give her a chance as long as she can prove it. Alright, as long as she can prove that she has changed. But knowing Lacey, probably not. And so Steve Shives, he was very sad. He was very disappointed in Lacey. He was just all over the place. He really just hit the bed. He saw that happening, got triggered, autistically screeched all across Twitter, complaining about anti-feminist, complaining about Lacey, complaining about how horrible she is and the horrible people that she's now in bed with, and how we should all have our channels removed. But you see, why just tell you about it when I can show it you? So let's just go through this and let's just roast Steve Shives, shall we? And so we'll start off with a small chunk of what is part of a larger thread. And I think this pretty much sums up Steve Shives' current thinking. And he says here, "I don't want to make friends with anti-feminists. Far more productive to befriend someone at YouTube who could delete all their channels." Well, Steve, you've always been somewhat metaphoric and somewhat euphemistic with your censorious language and your belief that people should be censored, but at least now you've been triggered so much that you're just going to be blunt for once. I like it. It's really good. I'm loving this bravery here. You're so stunning, Steve. Oh God, I can almost feel a tear coming. And then somebody tells him, who I assume is an SJW, "But Steve, censorship, how will they handle it?" Then he says, "Steve, they just have to work a lot harder to spread their bullshit hateful message to a vast audience. And wouldn't that be just awful? Chris Lawrence, so terrible if they couldn't spread their hate in monetized forms. Chris, I think you need to sort out your grammar and syntax. It's woeful." And then Steve finishes it off saying, "Don't they have a right to be publicly bigoted for a living?" Well, if they're American, yeah, as long as they're not attacking people and committing racial violence or sexual violence or anything like that, yeah, they do have that right. Less so in Europe, but again, it depends on what kind of bigotry, really. I just like this. They're being sarcastic here. They're being somewhat, you know, sardonic, and it's just like, you know, they're telling the truth here. They're not actually being unserious. They're being very serious, but quoting it in that sarcastic humour that they think they can somehow, you know, copy from us. No, you can't do that, you see, because sarcastic humour works when you're actually being sarcastic. And I just like how they think we're bigots, because it's just pure projection. They are the bigots. They're the ones who hate particular races. They hate people from races that they don't actually hate, but don't act like the way that they think these people should act in said races. They don't like men, especially if they're men themselves. They seem to really dislike themselves. And also if they're women but don't toe the party line, they really don't like them, especially if they're like conservatives or something. They really don't like that. And also it is a vice versa, but let's not get into that. Steve, you seem to have had something wrong with you. Are you ill? Just wondering. Now, I may have the order mixed up with these posts, so do forgive me, but hopefully the context hasn't changed too much. I had to copy and paste these things off the internet, so please bear with me. Steve Shives then goes on to say, I'm not advocating political censorship, I'm advocating not wasting time making nice with abusive, dishonest, opportunistic people. Well, that kind of contradicts what you said, because didn't you just want to go to YouTube or know someone at YouTube so you could delete everybody's channels because you disagree with them? Is that not censorship? Is that not advocating political censorship because you disagree with us along political lines, socio-economic lines, things like that? But why are you now saying that you aren't doing any political censorship advocation? You clearly are. And if you don't want to waste your time with so-called abusive, dishonest, opportunistic people, just keep doing what you're doing and block us. We don't care about you. I mean, as far as I'm aware, you blocking us is kind of a blessing in disguise, because then you just wall yourself off from the rest of the world and nobody else will really care what you have to say, because one, they can't see it, and two, your reputation will be so sank, it will be so low that they won't take you seriously. So you just played yourself. And then Lacey Green says, abuse is one thing, but banning channels you disagree with is political censorship. A level of civility is necessary to understand each other, which is very true. Very true. Then Steve Shives says, it's upsetting to hear you repeating the same, you just want to silence disagreement bit I hear from the likes of Carl Benjamin or TJ Kirk. And I mean genuinely upsetting. I'm not talking about banning people because they disagree with me on something. I'm talking about banning people who use the platform to promote bigotry and intolerance and perpetuate white supremacy and rape culture. Yeah, but the whole point is because you disagree with them, Steve. You think they're bigots because you disagree with them. And me, I guess. You disagree with people who espouse these beliefs, and you don't want them to espouse these beliefs on YouTube and other big platforms. Hence, you are advocating censorship to remove them, or to at least make it very hard to do so. So again, how can you not be? But you are. But that's his opinion, people. As in the video that I responded to a while back. If you are pro free speech, you must also be pro censorship. That's how it works with him. And then Cat Black chimes in and also quotes the Bronx blogger. Thanks for the dollar. She doesn't care. This is about making money, not bridging gaps. White feminism 101. Well, you know, Kat, you might be right. She could be in it for the money. But we can't really read her mind. Her actions will prove that in the future. But it's funny. When women and men in general really are anti-feminists, especially women, they're doing it for the money. White feminism, this, that and the other. It's really immoral. But when a feminist, like, you know, Andrea Dworkin, or even the more modern ones, write books and have YouTube channels where they're literally full-time, they work for the Young Turks and NBC and CNN and all these other mainstream outlets, or just ways of making content, that's okay, because it's their message. So it's only okay for you guys to be bigots and to make money off of it. But when you accuse us of being bigots because we make different content that disagrees with you, that's bad. Kat, can you be consistent for once in your life? And then Steve, good old Steve, says some gaps are better filled in with alligator stop moats and fenced with electrified barbed wire than bridged. I like your thinking, Steve. Let's go back to the feudal times and just wall all you guys off from the plebs. I like that style of thinking. I love it. Shows how much you really care about people. And then he says, speaking harshly about horrible, abusive, toxic people doesn't make you as bad as they are. That's their talking point, not mine. Fuck them. Ignoring the other people because they're just being stupid. It's really ironic that he's saying that I'm just speaking harshly about these horrible, abusive, toxic people. I don't have any evidence to show that they're horrible, toxic, abusive people, but that doesn't make me as bad as I'm trying to make them out to be. Hell no, no. It's not like me advocating censorship is a bad thing. That's what they do. Yeah, keep projecting, Steve. Keep deluding yourself into thinking that you're this nice angel who can do no wrong. And then Steve says, add to that the fact that anti-feminism is a form of misogynist bigotry, and they all promote it and defend it. They perpetuate myths about false rape accusations. They seek to undermine survivors. They openly try to bully their targets into silence. And then Stereo says, it's very true. Remember when YouTube had a huge problem with teenage girls getting bullied on the site? And then Kiki Cannon says, but Steve, if you hate Nazis, aren't you as bad as a Nazi? I'm so done with that argument. And I don't know what they're saying because the tweet thing is in the way, and I assume that means that aren't you as bad. How does hating someone necessarily make you as bad as them? Is that because you think these people are full of hatred? I don't know. Whatever. And as for Stereo, do you mean the reply girl thing? These people were not getting bullied. These people were being criticised for being essentially attention whores and trying to make money off of gullible people by using their sexuality, but whatever. And as for Steve, Well, firstly, he's conflating feminism with women, as a lot of these people do. So therefore, anti-feminism isn't a form of misogynist bigotry, because feminism does not equal women. It is the criticism, it is the movement against another movement, which is seen by us anti-feminists, and indeed many normies, increasingly, as a bigoted movement that hates men, and also women who aren't feminist, or fit in with the feminist mould. And it's funny because I can show you loads of feminists perpetuating myths about false rape, like Lacey Green with the 2% myth. We don't know the exact number. We've always claimed to never know, because we don't. These things aren't actually reported in that way. And again, he has to show that we're trying to undermine survivors. I was just being open and honest about statistics, undermining them. In fact, if anything, feminists undermine male survivors of rape and domestic violence by saying that they don't exist. I know not all of them say that, but most of them do. So, yeah, think before you speak, Steve. And also, I just love how he's saying that, as usual, they just openly bully people. If they openly bully people, you can point that out, can't you? But you can't, can you? You just have to make it up. It's funny, that. And then ironically he says, then they cry victim and someone has the gall to suggest that maybe they, or their favourite big time anti-fem, should be banned for this. So yeah, they're scum. Fuck every last goddamn one of them. The ringleaders and the abuse profiteers and the cheerleaders and the apologists. The only people crying victim here are people like you, Steve. You will be the people who spout this bigoted nonsense, who actually are the ones going out there creating witch hunts against people and bullying people. For example, Adria Richards. And what you're currently doing to Lacey Green right now, Steve, this behaviour is what you've just described. You are projecting as per usual. The only cry bullies here are you, Steve, and your fans and your allies. And how dare people react to you saying that we shouldn't be banned for doing nothing wrong, because we are doing nothing wrong. We're just making our opinions be heard. But hey, that's why you want us banned. It's nothing to do with bullying. Bullying is the excuse. The difference, he then goes on to say, anti-feminists have prospered on YouTube by relentlessly attacking people who are mostly not seeking a fight with them. Oh really, Steve? What about Atheism Plus? What about Gamergate? The atheists didn't cause that fight. The gamers didn't cause that fight. Feminists caused that fight by trying to essentially co-opt these cultures and movements. But hey, you know what? Let's rewrite history. And it's not like feminists have had a 100-odd year long fight against masculinity and males in general, but let's not go down that path, Steve. That's just too long and rocky, isn't it? Many of their targets are people with much smaller channels, smaller fan bases, who are easily overwhelmed by hordes of trolls. Oh really? Then how come a lot of YouTubers like Hannah Whitten, yourself, H-Bomber Guy, The One Janitor, loads of other people have massive subscriber bases and seem to do quite well? The Young Turks are feminists, they've got a massive subscriber base. There's loads of people who are big. It's not just smaller channels. I think I find that there's plenty of anti-feminist channels that are just as small, if not smaller. But hey, whatever, let's ignore the fact that when a bigger feminist responds to an anti-feminist, like Marina Shutup did to my friend Jacob, the anti-feminist gets the same treatment by hordes of trolls. But hey, it's Schadenfreude, according to Micaiah B. It's Schadenfreude, so it's okay. He then says they do this knowingly and repeatedly. This is what they do. They abuse, degrade and harass people for a living. Yeah, blah blah blah. Narrative, buzzword, Steve. We get it. You think we're bullies. And then he shills himself. I'm receiving and deleting comments like, you're such a hypocrite for saying anti-fems are abusive then calling them scum. Ha! I wonder why, Steve. I wonder why you're deleting it. He then says if she wants to talk about people doing backflips to hate on people, she should think about how they still come at my wife. My wife who made one video with me that displeased anti-fems years ago, and she and I still catch shit for it regularly. Years of sustained abuse from one video. That's doing hate backflips. You do not get hate from it. In fact, I think you get pity. When people talk about the video, they pity you, Steve. They don't hate you. I think they dislike her, but they don't hate her either. They think you're being abused by your wife. I'm one of the few that disagree with that. I don't think you are. But then again, you would just see me as one of these people who apparently give you hate for one video, right? It's not the fact that your relationship did look remarkably unhealthy and you look genuinely just not happy to be around her, but you're just placating her. But hey, I'm not an armchair psychologist, so let's move on. And yet more whining and wailings appears, giving him a video from Tissue on Head or something. And he goes, what really pisses me off is that she says you do backflips to hate on her when you're not one of the people who does backflips. Not to. I despise every fucking last one of them. And I didn't need to do any backflips. All I needed was a modicum of basic human decency. Now, I am aware that I've done this backwards by accident. I've Remember, hastily done this, so if it's in a Pulp Fiction style order, please do forgive me. This is the kind of mental gymnastics Steve has to pull in order to convince himself he's not hateful and he's not bigoted like the way he thinks that anti-feminists are. And it's really telling. God, I really don't want to be an armchair psychologist today, but it's fascinating. Michael then goes on to say, I wonder when Sjw will apologise to Steve for continued mocking of his blocking, since she's now decided it's okay to block. Now, why is Sjw blocking people? I don't know why she's blocking people. I don't have the context of this, Michael. You're just seeing her blocking people and think, hypocrite. Now, see, there's a difference. Now, hypothetically, let's say Sjw is blocking people for safety reasons. Let's say she's blocking people because, you know, they might be sending her threats or something, or maybe for whatever reason they're doing something that worries her, or maybe these people are literally trolls trying to get a rise out of her by saying anything by any means necessary, and she's blocking them so she doesn't have to feed them. Steve Shives, on the other hand, mainly blocks people for the littlest of disagreements, while Sjw, as far as I'm aware, doesn't tend to do that. I assume she may have done so in the Candid situation. I assume that's what you're referring to. But Steve does it worse. He does it more, he does it worse. That's all he's usually blocked people for. I mean, he even blocked Shayra. This is probably worse than anything Sjw on Head will ever do. And he blocked her for disagreeing with him about rape. That says a lot about Steve, doesn't it? And then he says, her deleting her channel and convincing all her scumbag anti-fan buddies to do likewise is all the apology I need. So you want her to essentially delete your channel so you don't have to hear her mocking your allies and your ideology. Nice, that's an apology, is it? See, people, he advocates that shit. I just said that Lacey Green needs to apologise for bad behaviour. Why am I bad all of a sudden? I'm just wondering. And it's the only apology he would accept, people. And Michael Rowlands laughs because, you know, he's in full agreement. And then he starts directly trying to get to YouTube. He's trying to contact them saying, why is this sort of content allowed on your platform? Are you comfortable hosting people as they publicly laugh about murder? Obviously in reference to V, Lewis, Uzulu and Kraut stream, which is funny because you people seem to be more interested in white knighting for the murderer rather than giving him his just desserts, which is criticism and, hell, I'd say it, mockery. He needs to be mocked. Murderers need to be mocked. These people are I can't think of anybody other than politicians and other scummy types of people than murderers that deserve mocking. I can't think of any other people that deserve it the most. And of course, laughing at a murderer. You should be banned. You should be censored for that. I'm glad that YouTube don't listen to Steve. Hey, seriously, they're all garbage. Every last one of them. I know you are, Steve, but what a way. And then this person, Foxy JB, sends Steve, I can only seem to be her video, as the person in the thumbnail is very much similar to the avatar. And then he said, it was well said, TJ Kirk has never been anything other than garbage, but this latest display is grotesque, even for him. Yeah, it's not like you've defended murderers and bigots and are open to censorship, and is very, very scummy when it comes to treating people who disagree with you, even rape victims, but whatever. There's supposed to be a hashtag no perfect victim, unless that person is Shayra, right? And then Foxy says, not to mention him trying to say you were defending RDP and posted a pic that doesn't show you defending RDP. Yes, it did. All you people have done is essentially say, oh, he didn't do nothing. PTSD and mushrooms. He wasn't in any way responsible for his actions, when yes, he was. If what you say is true, he had PTSD, he took mushrooms, then he is responsible for his actions. He took that, which then led to the actions that he took. So, yeah, you have been white knighting for him. You have been far more offended, not by the murder itself, but by the reaction to the murder. And that says something. That's what TJ and all of us have been trying to point out to you. You don't care that a murder has actually been committed. You care more about anti-feminists' reaction to the murder, because you want a point score. And then he goes, yeah, he ain't too sharp. He thinks he's a fucking Masamune sword, but he's more like a rusty butter knife. I can't believe Steve is dorky enough to even do that. I mean, I have no words for that. That is cringe. A rusty butter knife that taunts rape survivors and yells misogynist and racist shit into a camera for a living. Point to me where he's ever taunted a rape survivor. Tell me where he yells misogynist and racist crap. I'm still waiting on that, Steve. Then he says, and exploits murder victims, so he can boast about how charitable he is to his audience of angry teenagers and emotionally stunted adults. Well, it's kind of funny you say that, because every single time that controversies like this happen, it only shows that the only angry teenagers other than MGTOWs, and emotionally stunted adults are male feminists and female feminists. It seems to be you people who tend to be more like that than anti-feminists. At least we're far more mentally stable than you are. And then Copiosity says that is literally all he was doing, and the reason we criticised him because we didn't want him to, and this makes sense. Whatever Copiosity, but you do know that making a charity for people who have suffered under domestic violence or something is not taking advantage of victims. How is that even remotely possible? But only in your heads is somebody that isn't a feminist doing that in some way, taking advantage of victims. But you using this to attack TJ is totally not taking advantage of Ivy, but whatever. And then Steve says, it's not like we've any reason to doubt the purity of his motives. A history of being an abusive and dishonest piece of shit, for example. 1, TJ's never abused anybody. And 2, he's never been dishonest about you, Steve. He's been rather too honest about you. And then Michael and Copiosity are literally, I know this is in reverse order, continue to doubt the veracity of his aims. And, you know, all it is he just wants to raise money, guys. He just wants to raise money. And he responds to TJ, quite rightly saying, if you're going to attack me for raising money for DV victims, and even though I don't think it's a referendum on feminism, I'm going to fight back. Michael's like, I don't always fundraise for DV, but when I do, I see profit. Why does he always have to put words in people's mouths? Can't he just literally respond to what he's responding to? And then Steve says it's just self-serving framing. He's aping Trump. Yeah, I find that ironic, Steve. It's not like you have ever not done that recently, like just right now. Now, I could have used other examples, but I'm running out of time. I really need to press on with other things. So, for now, let's just finish off with something that I think really sums up Steve, like the projection and everything. This one tweet just encompasses everything about Steve, but he's projecting it onto TJ. And this is what he says after responding to Michael Rowlands. He's a parasite with nothing to offer but condescension and degradation and intolerance and fucking shameless exploitation. Yes, Steve, thank you for describing yourself. And with that, I must end the video. This has been Charming Man 93. Like and share the video. Subscribe to my channel. Donate to my Patreon if you want to. And new videos will be coming out next week. I'm going to be more frequent as usual. I know I've been really lazy or had problems. I've had work which I can't really post on because I can't for whatever reason, but I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to try and work around that. So I'll see you guys later.